Episode 50 was indeed very special, as the one and only Stacey Fells stopped by once again for a farewell chat. She has moved on to greener pastures after spending nearly a quarter century in South Korea. Bittersweet best describes this one for me. On one hand, it's so nice that fantastic opportunities have presented themselves and await her and her family back in Canada, but sad because our community here loses an absolute rock. A couple tears were shed during this one. Hope you all enjoy. I hate traffic and parking and pretty much everything to do with driving here. I bet you share some of the same feelings. So my question to you is, why are you wasting your time and money and exhausting your mental and emotional well-being driving to your English class? I don't know either. Do yourself a favor. Check out Dr. English. Dr. English is an all-in-one online English learning platform. Their qualified native speakers can help you start your journey or continue your journey to English fluency today. Enjoy learning from the comfort of your own home. Call 010-4591-1496 for a free sample class. Open your doors to endless opportunities. Dr. English.
You are now tuned into This Korean Life with your hosts, Brian and Nate.
All right, welcome to another episode of This Korean Life. Very special. Number 50. We were supposed to do something special, and I'm glad this coincided with your big...
Something special.
Something special, yeah. Well, this is awesome. What a way to celebrate. Have number 2 back in for number 50 on our way out. Stacey Fells, welcome back. So nice to have you. And,
Morning.
And wonderful news. A lot has changed since we recorded 2 years ago. I have a question.
Has it been 2
by
years?
The way. Well, you tagged us in something. It said happy 2-year anniversary. Was that for the podcast or for your episode?
No, it was for your podcast, I think. I mean, it popped up. It popped up as, second-year anniversary.
It was weird because we had originally recorded. I think we had started recording. Maybe it was when
you had started the website then.
I think so.
Or the Facebook page.
It was one of those things. We looked like, did we start 2 years? Can't remember. We're trying to do the math.
It's been a long time. There's been 18 months of Corona, so
yeah, no doubt.
It's been a while, yeah, for sure.
No doubt. Anyways, welcome. What a big surprise, I think, for the community. One of the witches is jumping on the broomstick and heading east, heading east Canada.
Big surprise for me too.
No doubt. Why don't you give us the story how everything came about?
All right. Well, I'll try to condense it.
Yeah. You got 30 seconds.
Right. Which will link back into questions that I'm sure you want to ask me later.
Absolutely, yeah.
So my daughter has decided that she doesn't want to stay in the Korean education system anymore. She wants to get her post-secondary education in Canada. So in order to facilitate that, we want to send her to Canada to go to high school. So she's going to leave her foreign language high school here and go back and study in Canada. So our original plan was to send her to live with a family friend in Canada. And then possibly her brother and I would join her sometimes next year or the year after. And things just kind of didn't work out that way. I was contacted by a friend of mine who alerted me to the fact that there is a new job position opening in my hometown that he thought I might be qualified for.
It's an ESL position, correct?
Yeah, right. So they call it EAL.
Yeah.
English
but I think
is an
you mentioned
additional
that there
language.
was a few different jobs, but you didn't know if you would fit or qualify for them,
This
right?
was one specific job that was opening.
Okay.
And, it had a September start date. And he basically said, there's this job, that's starting. And would you be available to make it back here for September 1st? And initially I said, sounds really great. I didn't really know very much information about, I just knew there was a job. I didn't know what job it was in the beginning. And I said, it's just too much.
It must feel pretty
happening.
overwhelming at the beginning.
Right.
Like, there's no way I can
So
get my stuff in order.
This was early June. And, you know, I had just wrapped my head around the fact that it's, you know, that I'm going to send my daughter. And, you know, at that point I was just trying to keep her in school because she had been telling me since May that she wanted out before the final exams because she didn't want that stress. And so she just finished up her exams yesterday. So she was saying she wanted out the middle of June. And then, you know, she would just get ready to go to Canada, maybe take some classes online until the September start. So I would send her sometimes in August. So in my mind, you know, I'm sending her. I need time to pack up my house. You know, how would this all happen? There's no way that I could, you know, even if I, you know, somehow did qualify for this job, you know, just the logistics weren't.
And you don't have the
up.
typical, what Western people think of as a small apartment in Asia. You have you have a decent sized pad with lots of stuff.
Right. I've lived in
a
the
2-floor with a secret bedroom.
Right.
We discussed that.
Secret rooms.
Secret rooms, yeah.
Right. So I do live in a larger size house, and I have a lot of things accumulated over the past 24 years. So
24 years.
Yeah. When you say it out loud. 24 years.
That's wild. I was talking to my wife about it yesterday. Said,
Brian's only 27 years old.
Yeah.
No, seriously, I left Canada when I was 22, and I've lived in Korea now for like more than half of my life. So it's just, I've passed that in the halfway mark.
I'm coming up on that.
It's wild, man. It's wild. Yeah, just what a, I don't know, such a shakeup, but I think a welcomed. Yeah, you know, you kind of your life, you get into a nice pattern and you're working, you got steady work, and then boom, opportunity arises and you jumped on it. That's fantastic.
You always got to be ready to
So
not to make those decisions, but you got to be ready to throw your name in the hat.
This was just what happened, you know. So after the first you know, when I first you know, realized that there was this job that's possibly available, I just kind of put it to the back of my mind. Okay, like that was just one possibility. I'm sure maybe something else would come up, you know, maybe next year when we do finalize, you know, our plans. But I didn't think it was possible. And then about a week later, you know, I get a message from the same friend who's saying, you know, that the position is still available. It hasn't been filled yet. You know, I really think that, you know, you should fill out this application. And so I didn't have a resume. I didn't have any cover letter. You know, I've been here for so long. I don't think I've ever actually had to write a real resume.
Right.
So I got online to one of these resume builders, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, just threw something together and threw my hat in the ring. And a few days later, I got confirmation that I got the job. So.
Congratulations.
Yes.
So definitely, you know, if this friend hadn't, you know, helped as much as he did, then I definitely would not have, you know, this wouldn't have been, you know, even possible.
Do you ever, in any big life decision, are you ever really ready? Do you ever feel, I mean, even when I came here, I thought like, oh, I'm not ready to do it before getting married, before having kids, like, you know, you're always kind of hesitant, but I think sometimes just...
The more big decisions you make, I think the easier it gets. You just get that feeling out of the way. If you only do one every 25 years,
Yeah, I mean,
it's probably pretty anxiety building.
Anxiety, yeah. So just the whole time my stomach has been nothing but a ball of knots, and I just can't. I still can't, you know, fathom that.
It won't hit you until you're
home,
sitting at
right?
home and going, holy shit, I did it. What happened the last 2 months? I did
Right.
it.
It's just, it's crazy. So, so I literally had, you know, I got confirmation that, that I got the job. I don't know anything really besides I got the job, you know.
If it's
I
in
don't
your
know,
field, I'm sure you can adapt.
I don't know
to...
where the office is going to, I'm assuming at the school board. I don't know the hours. I don't know. I mean, I kind of have an idea of what the yearly salary might be, but I have really no idea.
But don't
so
you feel
things that we would normally
That was
check,
just suggested.
You know?
But don't you feel after living here that you're kind of equipped for anything? I think after I came back from Africa, and I thought, man, I think I can deal with anything now. And if a tornado came through and wiped me out of house and home, I think I could do it. And not that Korea is the hardest, but it is challenging in a lot of ways that you know, with the, you know, phoning you today and saying, hey, your class changed. Oh, it's canceled. Oh, don't come today. Oh, tomorrow's this. Don't you think you're a lot more adaptable now?
I mean, I think the really busy lifestyle that we lead here is totally different than what I'm going to be stepping into back home.
Yeah.
So, you know, as it is, we're up early, take the kids to school, go to work myself, finish off the first job, then, you know, go to the second job, help out a friend at her academy, wrap up there, come home, do my online class, you know, so we're looking at a full day. And I just can't wrap my head around the fact that I'm not going to be doing that anymore.
That was a big,
I don't know how to sit still. I don't know how to breathe.
Something that popped up into my head too last night thinking about this interview was, you're going from full to, you're almost like kind of hitting your stride to, like, it feel like semi-retirement.
Look, I'm going to give the new job my all. You know, I'm going to put everything I have into that too. But, it's going to be
it makes you think too about the work-life balance that we have here, and working all hours or being open to working all hours is almost an accepted reality here, right? Where at home...
I think it is at home. Maybe not in the education sector, but I think in general in business at home, you're expected same thing. Emails, calls... That's standard.
At home too?
Well, but I mean... At home, they're trying to put laws in the Western countries that restrict you from answering, not being mandatory to answer emails, because guys send off crazy stuff when they're drinking on a Friday night and the email comes in and it costs them their job. Mm-hmm. But you're expected to answer.
But in terms of education, I mean, teachers at home, 5 o'clock, they're probably...
Careful.
Checked out. No, you're doing Mark, and I know you're. Yeah.
You know, Corona threw a big wrench into the works there too. I mean, I just kind of scrambled for a couple months. You know, like, what am I going to do? Because, you know, you're in positions here where it's no work, no pay. You know, for the most part, and you know, you don't have that job security that, you know, I would be stepping into back home. So and so I just, you know, sink or swim. I jumped ship.
Scramble.
And, you know, you just hop in. And I was lucky that I got, you know, the opportunities that I, you know, have now. You know, but the first couple months of Corona, you're just kind of thinking, like, what's going on? Yeah. And, you know, my brother had said, like, you know, don't worry, like, worst case scenario, we'll just pack up and go to Canada, you know. And so that was comforting. Yeah. But at the same time, you just, you know, you're used to working. And then when you don't have the work available, you don't know what to do, right?
What are you going to do with all this time? That was a good time for reflection for everyone to kind of put things into perspective. And
I mean, I just like made more soap that time, you know. Just I thought, if I'm not going to be working, I better do something productive. So,
can you walk us back a little bit? It's been a while since you've been on. Maya got into one of the best schools in the city.
Right.
She worked extremely hard. I think we've talked about it on here many times. This education system is a pressure cooker, and it's not easy to succeed. And she did that, and she got in. Can you talk a little bit about the process of getting in, because that makes the decision even more maybe complex, or maybe easier once you got in and figured out what it was like. But my main question is, what was the original plan on heading back? Was it after first year, second year, third year of high school? Or, because this came up pretty abruptly, right?
Right.
So can you start maybe from getting into the school, how hard it was, and then what she's gone through a little bit? So,
you know, a normal day for her, when it's leading up to, like, when it's a month prior to exams, you know, she would go to school, come home.
Middle school?
Middle school, right. So she would go to school, finish school, go to her academies. At the time, she was taking like science and math. Go to her academies, and then she would go to a study room. So she would, you know, pay for the month, or you get so many hours at these study rooms.
How much are they? $5 an hour.
Sometimes a little bit cheaper if you buy
block hours.
If you buy like a month or a certain set. So she would go and she would ask me to pick her up like at least midnight. And this is, you know, she's 14, 15, you know, even 13, you know, the beginning of middle school. So she's asking to be picked up at midnight. And, you know, I'm trying to, you know, encourage her, you know, okay, like,
How about a nap?
yeah, let's maybe not study that much. And then, you know, I get accused of not being supportive, you know, like, this is how much I have to study. Like, you know, you've got to realize that if I want to, you know, chase my dreams, this is how much in reality that, you know, I have to study. So me telling her like, oh baby, you know, I heard you're sick today, maybe you should come home early, you know, I would get the,
You don't care.
yeah, you know. So you know, because I'm not that tiger mom, it was always been like what she, you know, wants.
Seems like an effective way to get your kid to study. Hey, you probably shouldn't study so much. Don't tell me what not to do.
So she worked really hard, and, you know, only the top, you know, only the cream of the crop can get into these specialized high schools. And then, you know, she knew that it was going to be difficult. She knew that it was going to be challenging. She knew that living in the dormitory wasn't going to be easy, but I think nothing really prepared her for actually being there and living that life. So, you know, they're not allowed cell phones. She has to line up in the morning to use a public phone to call me, you know, a collect call. We can't call them.
That's what my daughter does.
Yeah, collect call. We can't call them. 6:30 wake up. You know, they blast music and, you know, everybody wake up. They have to line up in the hallway for a check.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Korea is effectively like convinced these kids to build their own prison and then like stand in line to live in it.
You know, she's mentioned on more than one occasion, you know, the words prison and hell. So we'll just
Hold on, you're getting woken up by music. You can use a public phone to call someone.
No cell phones. You know,
I do agree with that, or there should be restricted cell phone time.
The third year students, I think, are allowed to have devices, but the first years are not. So, you know, simple things like me sending her a message like to say good night, or, you know, did you have a good day? You know, I have to wait until she calls. And then, yeah, so you have all these kids who are, you know, probably the top of their schools all in, you know, one place now. And then it's just, okay, survival of the fittest. It's like the Hunger Games, you know, who's
crazy enough?
Who's going to be the class captain, you know, because this guy was president of his school and this guy was president of his school or her school, you know, so who's going to be the class, you know, captain? And then, yeah, I mean, it's the bullying, like cyberbullying started the first week. It only happened once that I know of because she deleted the app that it was coming through. So there was an app that students were using to anonymously ask questions of their
teacher,
of their older you know, peers, their sundays, right? The older kids, like, what's the best way to study for like this class, or, you know, what should I do to get better at this?
I don't think anything in elementary school, middle school, or high school should be anonymous.
Yeah, I had no idea what this app was.
No, you have to think about the culture, and it's a little bit embarrassing to ask some of the questions. And if you have the chance,
but I think that on the cyberbullying is way more toxic than write them down and put them in a box with a teacher
so
through. Or something.
Remembering that these kids don't have devices, you know, the whole time. Her first week of school, she comes home on a Friday night. You know, she seemed fine. You know, it was challenging. It was difficult. It was, you know, different. This first week of living in a dormitory.
As expected.
As expected.
It's a pretty big transition.
But she didn't really like, you know, she just said she was tired and she was going to go to bed. She didn't really talk about it too much. So the next day I bring her to her math academy. So she had math on Saturdays. Bring her to the math academy.
Don't take a break on the weekend.
No. Bring her to the math academy, and she comes out of the math academy. She breaks down, and I'm like, "What is going on?" And she's like, "I didn't tell you yesterday because you know, I just didn't want to upset you." But she's like, "Kids, my friends and I started getting messages when we got home last night. You know." Anonymous, probably from the older kids in the school.
Oh, the people replying are anonymous too?
You know, so she didn't know. So her friend had gotten a message like, oh, you think you're so, you know, whatever because you studied abroad. And she got something like, oh, when I heard there was going to be, a mixed child, a mixed student,
God.
I had, like, I expected you to be like prettier than you are or something, just things, crazy things like that.
15-year-old.
These are, this
Jesus,
is
evil
after the first
goddamn
week,
kids. Yeah.
after the first week, when she was expecting like, oh, this is going to be great. This is a great opportunity. This sort of thing starts.
I'm going to put you in your place.
But
Yeah.
hold on. We live in an era where I think this is everywhere, is it not?
I'm sure. To some
I'm not
extent, right?
saying
No.
it's terrible.
We were
but I don't think
yeah.
we can escape it no matter where. It happens at home all the time. You just
Exactly.
don't hear about it. And I'm sure there's much worse in Korean schools as well. Like,
Right.
Some of the discussion boards I'm in for my school, a lot of the teachers say Monday morning.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a discussion board. Monday morning, the first 2 hours is just diffusing any social media problems that happened over the weekend.
Like my wife's got it in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't
see it
imagine by
happening.
the time puberty kicks in and then the clicks start happening and somebody gets better at something else and then
I think we just kind of assumed that she's going to this elite school that everybody like had to
Was
like
mature.
work so hard to get into, that they were focused, had goals, and you hear so much about like it's preparing them for the top
It's
tiers in
cutthroat,
Ivy
man.
League, but so we were shocked by that. And so afterwards we just kind of, she deleted that app. We really didn't have any problems until later on the teachers start saying things like, oh, well, aren't you half Canadian? Like, why aren't you better at English? The child was born and raised in Korea and went through the Korean education system, when you talk about mother tongue.
Do you think that's just ignorance, or do you think that's blatantly
That teacher,
aware of what they're doing?
That teacher has also, I've heard Maya say that she's always comparing her own child who graduated from the school to them. Like, my daughter was blah blah blah, and my daughter did da da da, and why aren't you guys doing da da da?
I had a math teacher like that in high school, and it made me just hate math. Like, why? Like, my son's 2 years younger and he understands this. Like, well, maybe you're just a shitty teacher.
Yeah,
You need to think of a
No,
different way.
because my son understands. I'm
Yeah.
the best teacher.
I mean, I'm not trying to, we're all educators. I'm not trying to knock teachers, but when you stoop to that level, trying, and just to her confidence, it was just boom, boom, boom,
Absolutely.
But I think especially here, and just the world we live in now, it's so much more, for the kids are so much more fragile in the way that all these things can just hurt. So, man, I got teased all the time at the playground. I think you're just going to go score more goals in soccer or baseball or whatever.
But
There was always, I think there was more healthy outlets maybe.
Well, you could go home. You can go home and have some normal life at home where you're disconnected from the playground baloney that you were in. But now you go home and the social media, like you said, she came home on a Friday night and like, oh, I'm in my bed, and you're getting messages.
I'm saying I think this is social media, not. We grew up in a time where we were brought up to deal with our problems and problem solve and manage our stress or anger or whatever a lot differently than kids these days. And being attached to that social media makes them that much more. You can't even see the guy. Why are you getting angry? You can't even see the person, and it's everywhere. It's on Ulsan Online. It's on every expat in Korea. It's everywhere, and you gotta cut these guys out. But I think we came up in a time where you were able to manage or deal with those things differently. No, here it's
definitely different. So getting back to your question, you're like, how long was she planning on staying in that school? So she had originally said, if I get into, because she'd already thought at that point she wanted to go to Canada.
Yeah.
She thought, if I get into the foreign language high school, I'll stay for grades 10 and 11. And then I would like to do grade 12 in Canada.
Right.
So she wanted to at least do grade 12 in Canada. If she didn't get into the foreign language high school and she went to a regular Korean high school, then she thought maybe she would just stay for a year and then do 2 years in Canada, because she knows English and, social study, different things that she doesn't learn here, she would need to learn before she went. We don't, I never really pushed her to study English because she always planned on just living here and going to school here. So, I mean, yes, she reads and writes. You know, she doesn't have the practice with essay writing and things like that.
Academic
but,
writing is a different.
you know, yeah.
different game,
I mean,
yeah.
so she would be able to, you know, the amount of work ethic that she has, sending her home, you know, she knows already that she doesn't have to study as much as she does here, but even studying, you know, a little bit as much as she
needs a tune-up in
Right.
some areas of English.
But she must be also miles ahead in other areas.
right. I mean,
But learning math and science, academic, like I say, academic English is much
right.
different.
hmm So she knows it's going to be a challenge, but you know, it's what she wants. So
Just
Yeah.
a couple on the previous one, just because there are parents that listen and stuff, and I think it's really, I'm really curious. When they go to the study room, do you wonder? I think I know the answer, but I don't know if my parents would never trust me that much. Did you wonder what was going on there? Like, Mom, I have to stay till 12 every night. My dad would be like, what the hell are you doing there every night till?
so
And when we talk often about efficiency and that studying for 50 hours vs 4 hours of good study is a lot better, and taking breaks and going to play
she
basketball
did-
for 30 minutes.
right.
You got to have healthy study habits. And I think we find as educators in Korea that often it's just quantity over quality. How do
She did
you
have
how do
breaks,
you as a
right.
parent, like, did you ever wonder what was going on there, and did you ever encourage kind of healthy habits? And the second part, going into the no phones in high school, I mean, middle school girls live on their phones. I don't know if she did or not, but what a jump from middle school phones and being in these study rooms with no supervision. You have to supervise yourself and be disciplined enough to stay off your phone in order to get the grades to get in, and then go there and get shocked with no phones.
Right.
How do you kind of not control but manage or maintain that kind of healthy environment?
So when she goes to the study rooms, I don't know if you've ever seen one of these study rooms before. We actually went in and like looked. She showed us her little cubicle that she rents out, and it's very like sci-fi. The place that we went, you know, air conditioners pumping. You have to scan yourself to get in. There's a front desk area where, you know, maybe there would be a worker or not. Sometimes they're unmanned. Then you scan yourself to get into where the rooms are, the private rooms.
Right.
So they're just like a little cubicle, like a little closet. And you go in and there's a desk, and then you've got a little shelf and a chair, basically. It's temperature controlled. It's totally quiet. You walk in and it's kind of dark with these like glowing cubes, you know, and everybody's in there studying, and you cannot make a sound, you know. You cannot
When
make
I
a
went in
sound.
the first time, I was like, this is like jail.
Right.
But they had all these free teas. Like, they had a drink station for like
They do
juice
have-
and water and tea. And I was like,
Yeah.
but if I had to study, this would be a good place to study. But I
Because
don't like studying.
exactly, I didn't understand why she had to go to these study rooms too, because she has a bedroom, you know, and I had even made her a little study room in the loft. We have a little cubby area over
secret room.
over our bathroom,
Mom,
right?
you're not serious enough.
Instead of like
Nobody
you know,
has a
Harry
cubby
Potter
hole.
under the stairs, there's a cubby hole over, and so she would go up there. But there's distractions at home.
Yeah.
You know, there's distractions. This place, like, it's total silence. You know, you have whatever you've brought with you, and, you know, and then you know that your friend is in the next cubicle too. And so you can say, like, let's take a study break, you know, and they can go out and they can get a coffee, or they can get a little treat, or, you know, it's time for dinner. Let's go have dinner together. So, you know, she had a sense of, you know, family, you know, with her friends, you know, like, we're all in this together.
Like guys going to war together.
You know,
The girls
yeah,
going
they
to the
could.
study room.
Yeah, so I would, you know, she has my, you know, my bank card, you know, for snacks and dinner and things like that, and I could see, like, okay, ding, she just had a bubble tea, you know, like, ding, you know, she's had like kimbap for dinner or whatever, you know, so
Dang, she got a new phone?
yeah. So she's not going to be wasting her time there. You know, if she knows, if she needs to have a little break, her and her friends would have a break. If they needed to study more, she'd say, like, Mom, I'm not quite finished. Can you pick me up, like, in, you know, 30 more minutes or something like that.
Would you ever be concerned about who the friends are? Or what, like my mom and dad always emphasize, you know, hang around good people, hang around. But if you're the top and the other two or three are hanging out with you, are they trying to leach off of you, piggyback, get your...
For the most part, I mean,
Or
like...
do you inspire each other to be better?
Right. I mean,
because you're my
she had-
competition going in.
Yeah. And, you know, but the friends that she had, there were a couple times where she had friends of like questionable character, and then she realized that they were of questionable character, and she, separated herself from them and aligned herself more with, friends that were, that had goals and were more driven. Her friend was like the top of the school. So, she would get steady habits from her, or, this friend attended like this academy. And so maybe the teacher at the academy had prepared some special study materials that the friends would share, So
I just don't get. We asked Dr. June too, like how can you effectively adapt to that crazy study schedule? I don't know. Maybe we just don't get it from Canada. Like I just can't imagine trying to cram shit into my brain.
No, she's
60
very.
hours a day.
But imagine if someone. I mean, I was pretty passionate about hockey. We could play every day. Every single day we could play on the outdoor rinks. Didn't matter the temperature or whatever, broken face, didn't matter. If somebody was that passionate about studying, I can definitely see it. It's just not the whole damn country.
Right.
And I think we're starting to see that now that, the students are starting to take a lot of different paths and a lot of jobs have been eliminated. And there's starting to be a lot more variety here in terms of not just taking one path to Seoul, Yonsei, or Korea, and that
the YouTube path is now available.
Pro gamer YouTube
But
special.
where else in the world do 15-year-olds go to study rooms and study till midnight?
And this was midnight. I mean, if I would have let her, she would have studied longer. Some days she said, "Can you pick me up at 12:30? Can you pick me up at 1?" Now, parking. You gents all know the parking situation in Korea. We have a paid parking spot. But that parking spot is only guaranteed for me between the hours of 6 p.m. and 12 a.m. So during that time, if somebody is in my parking spot, I can call them and say move.
Except when you get home at 12:30.
Except when I go pick her up at the study
Someone's in your
room
spot.
and somebody has come and parked in my spot, which did happen. Now,
You gotta ram them with the Corando.
well, so I couldn't,
Caramba.
really call them and say move the car, but grandma did call them the next day and say like, look, it's exam season, and she went to pick up her daughter and came back and you had parked in the spot.
Beautiful.
So don't do it again. And and it was a new neighbor down the road, and they're very apologetic, right?
Grandma left a dead horse head in
So-
the driver's seat.
So it really didn't happen, but it could happen. It could happen. So parking is a big problem. So so I would try to encourage her, can I at least come at like, 11:45 so that I can get back before, so that nobody would take our parking spot. But yeah.
What about healthy daily regimens? Like, it doesn't matter who you talk to; they just don't understand that sleep is important because you have to study so much. But there's multiple studies out there that you can't study 18 hours a day, sleep 6, and be physically healthy and mentally healthy. How did you deal with that as a parent?
So, I mean, we've had that issue since she was, in
Grade
one.
in elementary school. You can't follow, Korean time all the time, and especially in the summer when we don't have any other choice sometimes besides taking the kids out at night because it's just so hot during the day.
No doubt.
So you understand why families are like in the park at 10 p.m. With everybody together, because it's the only time they get family time, without the scorching heat. So I've always tried to, remind them, you've got to get enough sleep. You have to get enough sleep. And, what I'm running into like more these days now, it's starting to affect Tay. Last night he was up late and I was just busy doing other things and I didn't realize like he's still watching like, a movie. And he's like, there's no school tomorrow. And, he's right. He's in grade 6. There is no school tomorrow. Maybe I'll let him stay up a little bit later. And, but then I had to remind him, I'm going to be gone in the morning and then people are coming over to the house. So it's going to be noisy. You might get woken up in the morning when you still want to sleep. Are you going to be fine with that? And he's like, oh, yeah, whatever. So, he'll go to bed extra early tonight. But we've definitely, when I brought the kids home to Canada when they were younger and visiting different family members, and daylight savings time, it's like 9 p.m. It's still light out.
10, 11,
People are wondering why my kids aren't in bed, and I'm like, well, they'll get to bed eventually, but like we're on vacation and we don't have to be anywhere tomorrow. So
Well, I remember going back and we were at my brother's. I think I brought Head-On back, and maybe he had 1 or 2 kids, maybe 3 kids by then. And just one of the first days, like, okay, you guys coming for dinner? And I was like, it's 4:45. Who the hell eats dinner at 4:45?
Right.
We eat dinner at 8 and 9 o'clock, man. And then we have a second dinner at like 10:30 or something. And I mean, back when we were single, holy, dinner would be like 9 o'clock at night. And that was just the start of the night. But now I find myself, and I'm like, I'm upset if dinner's not on the table at 5:30. Like my coworkers said, we're going for dinner. If you guys want to come, there's a group of us going. And I said, wow, I forgot what it's like not to have kids. We ate 2 hours ago.
Right.
And they're like, hmm? And I thought, yeah, that's what I used to think. My brother was crazy eating dinner at 5 and 5:30. But if I want any chance of getting them to bed by 8 or 8:30, they got to be eaten by 5:30.
I mean, yeah, I had a friend growing up. Their dinner time was 4:30 every day. 4:30, and we were maybe 5, 6 at the latest, but
6 was a late dinner.
yeah, 6 was late. But I mean, when you have like single working mom, you don't get home till a certain time, and then you've got to get dinner on the table.
Sure.
So but I mean, yeah, my friends at home were like, her son was in grade 5 or 6 at the time, and she's telling me like 9 o'clock was his bedtime, or 9:30 or whatever it was, and I was just,
bitch, I'm just throwing the sandwich.
I'm trying to remember, I'm trying to remember growing up.
But I wonder too now, though. My sister, I was going to say my daughter. My sister, I think, is a pretty awesome mom. She's got 5 kids.
5, oh.
And those kids are outside all day. Especially during this Corona shit where it's go to school, don't go to school. Don't go.
Right.
She said, listen, just stay home. We're not playing this game. Just stay home. You can learn at home. And they're outside all the time, every day, if it's nature walks or hiking at the park or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And they're exhausted. They're beat. And they're done by 8 o'clock. Mm-hmm. There's no chance they can stay up later because they're just physically exhausted. And then I think, man, when we see the kids here, like I put my kids to bed and sometimes I go to the park for a walk or a run, and I'm like, these guys are out for like their after dinner walk, and it's like 10 o'clock at night, and I'm like, what the heck, man? But I just wonder if the kids spent more time outside or more physically active. Like I don't think, I just couldn't stay up that late when I was young. We were exhausted from running around all day. And how much different it is these days where there isn't so much physical activity, that, man, seeing these kids up till 9, 10, 11 at night.
The mental drain trying to study is probably pretty exhausting as well.
I mean, Corona threw a wrench in the works too, because my son was, he didn't want to go out. He was, and the teachers at his school, were telling the kids, finish school, go straight home. Don't go to the park, don't go to the playground. Go straight home, because they didn't want the kids to, to gather, to possibly get infected. So his teachers were telling him, go straight home. And I mean, it was, you could see it in his eyes, the thought of like going outside to play. I mean, it was like horrific for him, because, the teachers, you look up to your teachers, and they tell you don't do something,
And now it's become the norm.
Right.
Now it's go to school, but I can study online and play games all day.
Right.
And the uni students are the same. Well, I hated it before, but now I can do it in my jammies all day for 4 years. This is easy, sure.
Did you, having 2 kids that have gone basically through elementary school, what year did the pressure start as a mom? Like, I was informed by my wife's friends who have children older than my kids, that, like, I remember her daughter was in grade 1, and she's like, oh, the teacher was like kind of insulting her because she couldn't skip 20 times, and this kid has this problem because he doesn't do his homework, and there was lots of pressure. Is that, and Tony's in grade 2 now, and I haven't experienced any of that. Is it
because your wife is
not at all.
No?
There's zero problems. I don't think he's an outstanding kid by any means, but does that come in the later elementary, or did you even feel any real pressure as a mom to, like, your daughter's not in the top 10 of her math, in the math class? Like, did you ever experience any?
I mean, I'm lucky that grandma, for the most part, grandma takes care of all of the schooling. So she was the one who always contacted the teachers, who dealt with the teachers, homework, things like that. I mean, God bless her. She would go to, the stores, and she would get the how-to manuals, like for like teaching kids. Cause she's a grandma. She's not up to speed with that. But I mean, there came a point where she couldn't help, the kids with math anymore because it's just that's
Yeah.
the way it is. And
I doubt I could probably help the kids with math.
I think
that's probably that's
for Maya, she realized that maybe she should get some extra practice with math around maybe grade 5. And so she started taking the after school classes, not at a hagwon, but just through the school.
Yeah.
And then
You say she realized as
As
if I want to
in-
go to foreign language high school,
no,
or
this was in grade 5, like elementary
or
school.
everybody's better than me.
Just being in elementary school, and I never pushed her. She didn't go to hagwons.
Right.
She went to the fun ones that she wanted to go to, like taekwondo and music and art.
Yeah.
And but I didn't send her to English Academy because I think at one point she did want to go, so I sent her to my friend's school. But then after that, she took a break. But she started realizing that her friends who went daily to Math Academy were getting better scores than her. And which is to be expected. And so she decided on her own that she wanted to get better scores at math. And so she started taking, going into middle school.
I hope my
she took
daughter's going
math.
to be better at hockey.
Yeah.
But, and when we're talking about math here, this is a thing. My friend has, another friend recently went home to Canada after living in Korea a long time. Her boy's the same age as Maya. And he said that the stuff that they were learning in grade 10 in Canada was what he had already learned in grade 8 here.
Sure.
And he said everybody is using calculators and still getting the wrong answers.
Right.
Where, Korean kids are taught to do it in their head,
Yeah.
or, pen and paper.
Huh.
There's just a difference. It depends on the school teacher too. And, my daughter and my son have both different experiences because going to the same elementary school, that's Maya's brother. Certain things were, expected, but, maybe they
Different
shouldn't
kid,
have been a different kid, right? So he's totally not into math. I
Really, a
wouldn't
grade
say
6 boy?
I wouldn't say she loves. I wouldn't say she loves math,
Yeah.
but she's pretty good at it.
Yeah.
But now, since she had stopped going to the math academy for a while, and all her peers at the high school were still going to the academies, she's like, I don't know this, so I need to. So don't expect much on this exam because I haven't been taking math for a while.
Can you comment on whether the school teachers teach enough for the kids to pass the exam, or do you need that hagwon to supplement? That was another fallacy or another big conspiracy. Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not, but
So during
the conversation
Right.
has come up in the past.
So during middle school, I think for the most part, if you, really focused, you might be, and did a lot of self-study, you might be able to do well on the math without going to an academy. Out of my daughter's friends, the ones who did good at math are the ones who went to academy. So there is, a big difference. I don't think if you're relying solely on what's taught in school, you're going to be left behind.
How is that possible? How can they
You-
test
you-
on shit that they haven't taught?
You will
I
be
don't
left
get
behind.
You will be left behind.
How can they teach? Or is it just that they're getting the extra repetitions in
It's, maybe...
like extra homework sheets to do it? Because it
You know-
seems insane to me that you can test a kid on something that you think they've learned it, that
Well,
you assume they've learned it.
They probably have learned it in school, but the teacher might have just briefly touched on it. For example,
Then you can't
if we're
test it.
teaching, but it's in their curriculum, so it has to be tested.
That math
It's across
teacher,
the board.
Yeah, they should teach it more.
the math teacher I mentioned that I hated, his favorite line was, "It's all fair game."
Right.
Chapters 1 to 10, it's all fair game. You're like, oh, you're such a dick. Give us a.
So it's like this: if we're gonna, teach kids ABC, and you read the alphabet with them once, and you say, "Okay, there, you're done." But then, they go home, or
But
they
PH isn't F.
they go to they go to academy where the teachers is spending time on individual sounds
But it's
and
such a backward
putting it
system.
together, right? So I mean, there's a lot expected from the teachers, a lot expected for them to cover in a short amount of time, and it's just unrealistic expectations. So if you're not going to, I mean, look, my daughter goes to this elite high school, right? And on the weekend,
Why are they going to math academy?
Oh, well,
Add a
it
language. Add a
doesn't-
language in.
just
school.
doesn't stop there. I mean, so I'm carpooling with a friend. So I was lucky that Maya met some friends through an online, chat forum. She met her classmates before she actually went to school. And so then, just she tells me she meets these new friends and she's excited to meet them in person. And she says, Mom, do you know, did you used to have a student named Vicky? And I was like, oh yeah, I remember, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, do you remember her little sister, Jessie? And this was when, Maya was 2 years old. I taught this other little girl, and her sister was the same age as Maya. Well, they're classmates now.
Oh, nice.
So I knew a mom. So I have a, class mom friend. And so we agreed that she would pick up the kids from the school on Friday nights because I work, and then I would bring them back on Sunday nights. So really super, lucky that it worked out that way. Anyway, Jessie's mom, she has an older daughter that has, by Korean standards, is succeeding. She got into the Ewha Women's University. This is her second child. She's this, typical Korean tiger mom.
She's put herself into prison.
Yeah, she called me and said, I'm arranging extra Japanese classes for the girls. I'd like to bring them there on Friday nights. And I was like, I don't think, Maya's gonna want to just be picked up from her dorm and go straight to Japanese Academy, And she's like, oh, well, because the class was arranged for Saturday night, which, isn't too bad. So, yeah, and she said, I've arranged for the teachers to give us extra lessons on Friday night as well. And so I'll be picking them up from the dormitory. I'll feed them in the car, and I'll drop them off at Japanese at 7.
So it's all or nothing. There's no pretending.
She gets picked up at 5:30, and it's about a 30-minute drive back or more.
Wow.
And so she feeds them. She brings them hamburgers or sandwiches or whatever in the car. The girls eat, get dropped off at Japanese, have Japanese from 7 till 9.
I drift off midway some of these podcasts, honestly. I just zone out. I'm like, oh, we're still talking.
But that's my experience with those study rooms. Like at U of M, we used to have those, right? Like the whatever, and during exams, they'd be packed. Mm-hmm. But like I'd be in there for 10 minutes, and I'd be like, what the hell is this guy doing? What's that guy?
That's why you get a private room.
Whose noise is that? Who's this?
Right.
And
that's why you get a private room.
Those were quiet, cubicle, like you shouldn't make noise and stuff, but and ours even had doors on them. And I was like, well, I'm tall enough to walk by, just peeking in over the 6-foot barrier or whatever. I just can't focus that long or stay connected.
I mean, she's got different methods. She even has like little stopwatch timers to time how long she's doing this and that.
Wow.
And
it's meticulous.
It's a science. Yeah.
So they write down every 10 minutes. Like their study plan for the day is like broken down, and they got everything charted and gridded off. It's incredible.
You should see her pages. It's just crazy. I mean, first of all, the in thing is these little cubic pages, like a grid.
Yes.
And the writing, and it's just boom.
That's what my
she
middle
has
school
these beautiful study planners. But so Maya goes to Japanese because she's a Japanese major at the high school, and she takes math. And she was taking science, but she took a break. The teacher did call her up when it was exam period and said, like, come back to science, and I'll help you, during the exam period. And but she only takes those classes. Now Jessie, on the other hand, is scheduled the whole weekend long. Her mom has her scheduled boom, 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 boom.
Which is like so has a meltdown and just.
But I think they're desensitized. I think
they don't know any other. And I mean, a lot of these Okdong moms, they don't have
That's funny.
They don't have TVs in their house.
Right behind you there, that Yummy Park, In Order to Live. You see that? I did the third. Yeah, right there. Mm-hmm. I listened to her interview. She's been doing her rounds in the States there. Did you hear her? And she said the same thing, like in North Korea, like, oh, aren't you sad about it? She goes, you don't know anything else. This is just your reality. You're happy with it.
But hold on, like a lot of I'm not saying this special high school, but a lot of them are addicted to their phones. So I teach a girl at Hanshin Plus. She's middle school 3, so she's trying to get into the science high school.
Right.
And she's the same, but she can't get off her phone, and she's not allowed to bring the phone to her room to bed, but she's definitely on it till 1 or 2 in the morning, and she tells me, like, what else are you saying? Shh.
Well, it's because they're, they get, because they've been studying the whole day.
Sure.
So when you see them with their phone, maybe they just got it 5 minutes previous, and it's, like getting their fix, you want to catch up on everything that you've missed.
If you're like forced to critically think all day, sometimes just we've all done it too. You just find yourself just mindlessly, or what's her doom scrolling? Marie McClellan there, she said it was doom scrolling. That's exactly what it is. You're mindlessly just kind of.
I'm guilty of that at nighttime too. Like, you know, I
think
finally
everybody
let
is,
myself, I finally let myself like lay down,
Yeah.
and then like, you know, either I've
Pass
got
out
to, you know,
or-
pass out, and I'm like scrolling. I'm like, I gotta find out the news, and my eyes are like this, and I'm like, but I gotta catch up on the news, and then, you know, I fall asleep.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's because I haven't checked it all day, or, you know, in between classes or breaks, you know, I'll just check my messages.
That's what we think that we need to that we actually need to check that.
So when I see those grids of all their like
Right.
9 to 9:45, 5-minute break, get a Ramyun, 9:50 to, and it's gridded off, and it's like they're beautiful, and they're meticulously organized. But I'm like, do you really follow that? Like,
Yeah, she
I
does.
would be
The
2
kids
minutes
do,
over,
right.
5 minutes faster, 20 minutes. Oh shit, my whole schedule's gone in the first day.
No, she follows it. And another thing that we should mention here is that the way that they have to study here is totally different than the way we would study at home. So she came home
Roll a
with.
joint. Step 2 is smoke. Step 3, procrastinate till tomorrow.
She came home. So they have three different English classes at her school, and there's a total of like 6 different teachers. And one of the classes they were reading The Alchemist, and so she came home and she's like, "Mom, I'm reading this book. I need you to go over it with me." So I read it with her. We talked about symbolism. We talked about this and that. What does it mean? The characters. We talked about everything. Well, she gets to the exam, and one of the questions is, which word is not in the book? Which word is not in the book? You could ask the author the same question. Would the author be able to tell you which word was not in the book?
What?
Yes. And after we spent they're looking to separate,
The robots from the humans?
Yes,
What are they
exactly.
doing? Are
And
you AI?
her,
That's
whole scope
the
of the
difference
school.
of getting in or not getting in these places.
driving the girls back on Sunday nights, Jesse and Maya are talking about,
Which word's not in the book?
No, I mean, they're talking about expectations for the exams, they're telling me if you get at least a 50, then you're considered a god. They call it, amongst
God
your
level,
peers,
yeah.
God level amongst your peers. If you get a 50 on the exam, if you get like,
It's so obscure.
if you get a 40, you're not doing too bad. Everybody's going to get at least a 20 or a 30. And this is just the expectations. I mean, she's telling me, because they are purposely making these exams
So hard that
nobody is going to get.
whoever does get the highest is
Right.
obviously
Is
the
guessing
best
above
and
chance.
getting
Right.
Yeah.
And so, things like that. And so, and for the other English classes, you have passages from books or from lectures. You have to memorize the whole thing from top to bottom to be able to answer the questions efficiently. So you've got to memorize the whole thing because you don't have time to read it.
So this is what I mean. When they
don't
do
have
that
time to
stuff,
read it.
Learning
the light went off for her obviously, and she
Which
said
is why
she said I'm out.
I'm out.
done.
I'm going to Canada.
But I wonder,
Right.
Before that, and having your phone and seeing that there is freedom and you can do anything you want and all, like they don't know anything else, but I think they do. But once they see this question, don't they just put their hands up and say, "Okay, I'm done.
that was
Let me out."
exactly. So
Game
that's
over.
exactly what happened. She said, "Mom, I read this book. I went over it with you. We talked about this. We talked about that." And she's like, "And they're asking stupid questions. How is this question going to help me get ahead in life?" And I couldn't answer her. I was like, "You're right. It's it's ridiculous."
So going back, I don't mean regrets. Would you change anything if you had a second daughter who was coming through and discourage?
Well, I've got the son. I mean,
yeah, but he's a different.
right. He's a
much
different breed, right?
But would you discourage them from 12 o'clock study rooms and this? Because, listen, you can still achieve your goals without doing it this way. There's more than one way to skin a cat.
Maybe in Canada you can, but you can't here. And that's just the reality.
I think it's mostly like peers, right? If all your friends are at the
Is
Right.
it beers? I was like, beers?
Oh, yeah. And that's exactly it. She just right now, because she had less pressure going into these exams. I told her, you don't have to cram. You're just doing it. You're just finishing off the semester
To get the highest scores.
she's finishing off the semester just
To do it.
just to do it.
Yeah.
And so that was a lot of pressure off of her. But at the same time, she still stayed up till like 2 a.m. She's like, okay, I'm just going to focus on maybe this and that, and try to get my marks up in these two areas. So I
Which
gotta
speaks to
get
her.
I gotta get at least a 60, which is like what we previously talked about, like getting a 50, like you're considered, So she did get a couple higher scores, which to us would seem like low scores because she's never had scores like that before. She's always had either like 100s, or she was never the number one in her school, but she's always had really good marks.
She only had 4 100.
But this
Right.
is
Right.
why
One mistake or two mistakes, and she'd be apologizing to me, and I'm like,
Oh,
"Look,
that's-
kid,
yeah.
like this is
I
I'm
got
not
kids
that kind of
sobbing
mom."
in class like, I failed my test.
You know.
92.
Right?
two
And that's
things.
one wrong, right?
This is why when I was at UNIST,
Right.
which is one of the better universities in the country,
Mm-hmm.
I had on 2 or 3 occasions the moms call me and harass me about their kids' scores.
The
And I was
moms
like-
in university.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. But they're used to. Listen, everybody can't get an A in it for the rest of your life.
Right.
Everybody can't be the best.
Especially when you're
now
grading
you
on
went to a
curve.
high school, the science high school,
Right.
where everybody came in as the top in their class.
Yes,
Not
right.
everyone can be the school president. Not everyone can be the top.
Right.
Now you're at a university, which is bringing in the top kids from all over the country.
Right.
Everybody can't be number one anymore. Somebody's got to get number 2, and someone's got to get a
Right.
C or a D. And you're that guy. Did you tell your mom that you've been drinking beer and eating chicken and playing games till 4 a.m. all semester?
Right.
I know you were good before, but they're going to the army and they say, I don't care. First year, I'm just going to party and drink and play games and do what I want to do. But the mom's expectations were you got in, and it's not just, okay, you got in.
Right.
Now it's like, well, what did you do?
Pendulum swings.
Mom,
both
I
ways.
tried, but it's much harder. Mom phones me. What are you phoning me for? Your son's 19. Talk to your son.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
Did before deciding to move back, did you ever explore online options for high school?
We did, right? We did. So I have a friend who lived in Korea for quite a while. She's based out of China now. And her daughter is a year older than Maya. She's been doing online school for 2 years now. And she's like
Online
fast track
high school?
online high school
Yeah.
for a program in the States, fully accredited.
Yeah.
She's and it's a 365 days, 24 hours a day. Like you can access the program. It's like
very nice.
self study. So she's, just continually making her own schedule and studying at a pace where she's probably going to graduate, early
Yeah.
because, she has that option. You can just study as much as you want. So I looked into that for Maya, and, since the States and Canada have, very similar, education system, you can, the credits would transfer is what I'm trying to say. So I thought if I've got to get her out, because she kept saying, I want out now, like book me the ticket. I'm not telling you again, whatever you have to do, get all the paperwork in order. I'm out of here. And then our really good friend of the family, I call her my auntie here because, we in Korea don't understand, family and friend relationships if they're not the same age. So I always refer to her as my auntie. But she, she said, like, look, we're going to open up our home to Maya. We'll take her in if that's what you want. You're more than welcome to send her. And I'm, very grateful to her for always being there for us. So I was fully prepared to like have Maya do online class. And then, she had, this option became available. So we were definitely going to just send her. She was going to be a country kid, live in the country on the lake, with her hot tub and, and get a part-time job. And this is another thing too. You mentioned like not knowing anything different. So, I have a cousin at home with 2 older daughters. One, her youngest daughter is a year older than Maya. So she's recently bought herself a new car, and she's just 17, she has a part-time job. She saved up her money. She bought a car. And so Maya is sitting here
Taking
looking
the
at
bus.
that,
I'll get a car when I'm 40.
looking at her cousin in Canada, who's could be her next year, looking at how if she stays here in Korea, what her life is going to look like at next year, study, and more study. Whereas, her cousins in Canada have a part-time job. They have free time.
Could be doing,
Well, listen,
I
they
don't
can
do
see their
donuts in
friends.
the parking lot.
I don't think my kids fully understand yet. They're too young.
Right.
But I said, listen, tomorrow morning we're having an interview with Auntie Stacey.
Right.
Because she's going back to Canada. And she goes, I want to go back to Canada too.
Right.
And she said, why is she going home? And I said, well, my auntie's going to be studying in Canada. And she's like, I only want to do middle school in Canada. I'm like, you don't know yet, but that's the right thinking. But you have no idea yet. But anyways, it's already, like, I think just seeing pictures and talking to their cousins and stuff online. And I think they already just get the feeling, like, Gina knows her kindergarten was pretty strict and pretty tough and lots of homework. I think she already knows that, or she has the feeling that it's easier and freer and different.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of positives to, raising kids here. I mean, if Maya said, I want to learn art, okay, we can send her to the art academy. She wanted to learn the piano, the flute, okay, go to the music academy. A lot of things that, like, my small town in Canada, you don't have readily available.
Or would cost a fortune.
Yeah, it would cost a fortune. Just different classes. So she, she had a lot of opportunities here that she wouldn't have had necessarily at home. But it's vice versa too,
A lot of us parents, I don't think a lot of us, we have that marked in our brains as the time. What are you going to do? Middle school, high school is a turning point. You got to pick one or the other. And
I mean, I always thought, before, when she was very little, I had always, said to my ex-husband, by the time when she's entering elementary school, we're going home. She's going to start elementary school at home.
Elementary?
Right, because
I like elementary.
I think that's a common thought here. But I think when the kids enter elementary school, they go, oh, it's not so bad. It's fun, and the kids really enjoy it, and it's good.
Which is why we stayed. I mean, like, I ended up getting divorced, and so it was all kind of out the window. But elementary school wasn't too bad the first couple years, and then you get to 5 and 6, and then the pressure really starts.
Shit starts ramping
and
up.
The pressure really starts. And and she made it through middle school with
made it through
with a few breakdowns here and there, because it's a lot of pressure, and again, it's the social media too. She can see her cousins in Canada, even friends that she made growing up, visiting Canada in the summers. She sees people her own age not having to do all of this after school.
And at some point that must override what you're learning or what you're taught here, that they're not all poor, they're not all degenerates. Whatever they're doing is different than here and looks more fun than here, and they still have a life and a house and a car and a whatever. So, and
then she's seeing it's graduation season too, and she's seeing things pop up, and people getting all of these scholarships, kids getting all these scholarships to go to university, and she's like, that's possible at home? And I'm like, I'm sure you'd be with your 100%. Work ethic, if you even study like a quarter as much at home in Canada that you study here in Korea, but I mean, look, reality is she was born and raised in Korea, and her English isn't native level 100%.
But being in an all English environment will
I mean, it's total immersion. So there are going to be struggles in the beginning.
Well,
but,
just with the accent, but
So
you know, I mean the East Coast accent.
Yes.
Not her accent. Maya, you're fine.
You mentioned to me a couple weeks when we were chatting. You said the 12 o'clock was the study room in middle school and whatever to get into high school. But when I met you guys at the park there, and she said, and you had said, even it's more extreme once you get there.
Right.
That it can be 2, 3, 4 in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, she told me last week she went to bed one night at 2:30, and her friends were still up studying. And
that's insane. There has to be a breaking point.
But and so she's at the point where she feels really bad for her friends because she knows that she has an out. She's out of it.
Yeah.
But her friends are still, struggling to, they've got to try to get into these schools.
I can't wait to hear how
they put themselves in prison.
How no, but the kid. It's not the kids' fault. It's
no, but I'm saying the idea that society puts into their head that this is the only way to to be successful or happy or make a
Right, but the
dollar
kids
is-
can't really change that.
Right. I mean,
That's
but
us.
that started.
That's what I'm
Seattle's
saying,
gotta change.
Well, this speaking
or the
of
kids
adults,
going through the system look back and go, this is bullshit, and change it when they're older.
but her middle school teachers started in on them. You know, you all realize that not everybody can get into these top schools,
Right.
and
Yeah.
you all realize that even going to these top schools doesn't guarantee you a job.
Sure.
And so she started freaking out because her teachers are
Yeah.
the teachers are telling them there are a lot of people graduating from the top schools that are unemployed right now.
Right.
And I mean, it's reality.
Which is even crazier.
Right.
Okay, so let's just.
But the guy eating hamburgers on YouTube makes $100,000 a month.
It's too big to fail. You can't just cancel the system. So much of this economy is tied to education and the tentacles that are attached to that. You can't just cancel it. You said there's got to be a breaking point. Suicide is the breaking point.
Mm-hmm.
One of the highest suicide rates in the world.
Right.
And when you describe it, I know lots about the system, but the stuff she was saying and you were saying the other day when we talked, I mean, it was like, wow. And that you can't be fully aware of that before it's like a secret society where
Right.
don't ask, don't tell, and just make it through and say, holy man, I got through, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
If there was a light, I think it's not so bad to study, but if there was an end to it. But it seems like the next step, after middle school, like it's, going to the hell of a high school, and then it's university, and then you're in a company job, and you got to wait, and you're working on the weekends, and I don't know, you wake up one day, you're CEO, and you're like, oh, I'm here.
That's the trap.
And then you're like, oh shit, I feel the same as I did, and I've wasted all this time doing
Well,
nothing.
that's just it. She's realizing that the longer she stays here, it's just wasting her time.
Yeah.
Because she's got goals that she wants to accomplish, and wasting her time memorizing these random facts.
What word is not in?
Yeah,
That's my favorite one.
But hold on, wasting her time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was only 7 months ago she
Right.
thought you were the worst person for trying to pick her up before 12. It's amazing how fast the perspective can change. And only because she has the options.
Right.
And that if other kids had the options, they would never be in there either. But it doesn't exist.
And so we talked about when she was like, I want out of here. And, we talked about going to a regular high school. And that was just totally she's like, why waste my time at a regular high school?
Well,
I
it
got
seems
into
like
this.
almost-
Yeah, I got into this elite high school, but still, we're back to square one. You get in, you go back to a regular high school where you're at the top of your class, possibly,
But it's for nothing.
But it's all for nothing too,
Yeah.
because you're all focused on the sunung, the
But that's so
SATs,
the middle school.
right?
The middle school where I taught it was either get into the science high school, and the
Right.
backup plan is get into the best normal high school
Right.
you can go to, be top in your class, and still compete that way to get into the elite universities.
And still, I mean, and she's realizing that, and she said, I would much rather graduate from a university in Canada that is more, well known, around the world, even. Having a diploma from Canada is going to get her further than having a diploma from Korea.
Absolutely.
You're skipping a part here.
Right.
It's very lucky that she can have a conversation with you that she wants out of an elite high school.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being in a high school and telling my parents that I want out.
Right.
I don't think other Koreans can do that
Yeah,
without getting
no,
slapped.
and
in the face.
and this brings us full circle. I mean, we talked about the young lady who's Bowman, who's opened up her donut shop, right? I don't know if you've reached out to her yet or not.
We wanted to do a mother. We're gonna
Daughter.
the
Right.
mother-daughter series,
Right. So,
but someone decided to
but
move
she
home.
just totally, from my understanding, she just totally quit high school.
Yeah.
She didn't even finish. She quit high
She
school
did her
altogether.
equivalency.
Right. And that in itself is unheard of here. I mean, just
But if anything, that's the beginning, and
that would be
more
the
people-
young boys who want to ride their motorcycles and be chicken delivery drivers. You know.
But it's also very frowned upon. And if that donut shop, unfortunately, if it doesn't succeed,
Right.
they'll be stomping on her when she's down, and who knows where it goes from there. But hopefully, she said she wants to go back. She wants to study culinary arts. She wants to go to America and study.
Right.
So she does have goals and plans. It's just not. Remember what book wasn't in The Alchemist?
Yes, exactly.
She just trying to remember
And
what
it
was in
just-
the donuts.
It just came to a point in my daughter's life where she just had that like switch. Like, why am I like I'm fully prepared to study for things that are gonna like
benefit
help me
right.
in my life and my future career goals. But right now, this craziness that I'm forced to, not forced, but I mean, she chose to. Again, she knew it was going to be difficult, but she didn't expect no support from the teachers. She didn't expect, bullying to
Backhanded
some extent
comments from teachers and shit,
backhanded comments from teachers.
We're going to be coming through here.
Right.
It's only a few years. It'll be a blink of an eye.
Just want to say about Donna's Donuts there. Even if it does fail, she's learned more than any.
Exactly.
Hey, she knows how to count the money,
Budget.
order the food, all that stuff.
Everything. Customer service.
But she doesn't know
problem solve.
what words aren't in The Alchemist, unfortunately.
We're gonna be going through here in the next whatever handful of years. I think I'd be have a tendency towards pushing them towards that route in the beginning. I don't, just because I can foresee this, and hearing your story, I don't want to go through this, and I don't think my kids would ever be like to win the system. It's impossible here.
Right.
I don't think you could ever go through there and really win the system. You're getting mentally sabotaged by studying till 4 a.m. up at 6:30. Would you recommend to somebody doing this in the next few years, encourage or push them, if they have the opportunity, to go home and do middle school, high school with your aunt or uncle or grandma or somebody else? Or looking back, I know you wanted her to follow her dreams and she wanted to study, but if you knew what lied ahead, would you push her in a different direction?
I mean, it's would've, could've, should've
Right.
sort of situation. And I mean, because
There's no right answer to that.
I mean, she's just turned 16, and we don't have a lot of friends here with kids older than her.
Right, that's what I mean.
I mean,
We're coming through next.
really wasn't, nothing. We
Anything
didn't
to
really
go on.
have a lot of,
Information.
experience to go on. I mean, we weren't looking at it with rose-colored glasses, thinking everything was going to be fine, because we know the realities of studying in Korea. But I mean, to some extent, you didn't think that there were going to be all these other factors, like the teacher's backhanded comments,
When Gina gets to grade 4, I'm going to put this podcast on her phone and make her listen. She's going to go, Mom, I'm not studying in Korea anymore.
No, and then like these days you've got I have different forums that I'm on online, people who maybe they are raising their mixed Korean children as well. I really don't like the word mixed Korean children, but yeah, I mean, dads are Korean, moms are Westerners. And there's one woman, and she's like, "Oh, my daughter wants to go to high school in Korea." And Maya said to me, like, "Well, she might as well just commit suicide now, because growing up there, that's terrible." And she meant it though, and
it's funny, it's crazy, it's terrible, I don't
because,
want my kids to have to deal with it.
And so Maya, she was like, you've got to tell her, Mom, like that's just crazy. It's rose-colored glasses. I mean, they want to. Sure, they want to go and experience, the culture, where their father came from, blah, blah, blah. But high school is not the place to do it.
Exactly.
Exactly. I mean, you don't fully understand, what it's,
entails.
Yeah. And then something popped up on my YouTube yesterday. It was a BuzzFeed, a day in the life of a Korean student versus a day in the life of an American student. And the Korean girl that they had, first of all, it wasn't a realistic show of what that girl's life was.
Right.
She wasn't wearing uniforms to school, which means she's in some kind of artsy fartsy high school. And she was going to bed at 11 p.m.
Oh,
and
it
was
just
just
out at 11.
Yeah, and it was her day. And she was supposedly in the third grade, high school 3, grade 12. And so whatever. And I was watching it, and I'm just thinking, this is not.
They were on summertime.
This is not a
that
reality.
Was vacation. That was vacation.
Right. And they're trying to show the differences between the two schools, and it's like, this is not reality.
No.
First of all, she's waking up in the dormitory. Okay, being able to take breaks during the day, not realistic.
My page at home, the kids are getting in trouble for skipping school to go swimming in the sand pits.
Oh my.
at lunchtime and not coming back. And yeah,
it just totally was not, so I mean, they were trying to show like the differences, obviously, but I mean, that
Sujin
from
doesn't
my
dodge
experience,
bullets,
yeah, from my experience, that totally was not a day in the life of a typical high school student, Yeah.
When Maya said I want out, was there a big sense of relief?
I mean, panic.
Panic, but I can imagine.
Right.
Panic, but relief, or like, is there a sense that I'm glad she's making this decision, and this craziness is going to be over, and I hope she can do what she wants. Is there a really big feeling like that, or
no? I think initially panic. Once the dust settles a little bit, you nail down the job.
Yeah,
now it's
exactly.
No, but I mean even before. But that's what I mean. As a parent, when they say that, is that like, oh my God? But she's making the decision. You didn't force her to go there.
Right.
You didn't force her to not want to go there.
Mm-hmm.
But she's
realized
removing herself. She's removing the difficulty of her life.
Exactly. I don't want her to have the stress anymore. So that's a relief. But then knowing that she might not be fully prepared for Canadian high school life because she doesn't have the language skills that her friends growing up in Canada did. So there was a panic.
But we all went to school with kids and immigrants who they were some of the and probably the opposite, a little bit less, maybe not as affluent in English, but genius in everything else.
Right.
So you play the cello, the piano, the violin, and the ukulele, and you're a genius. And can you be my tutor? And you can part-time tutor the other students for money, and holy shit. So yeah, I think she'll be.
I mean, because up until recently, when she started saying she wanted to go to Canada, I was panicking the opposite way, thinking like, what are we gonna do the whole time here? What am I gonna do? As a single mom, how long
can you be a grandma playing Paduk in the park?
How long can I realistically stay in Korea? Because until that point, she didn't want to go to school in Canada. She wanted to stay here, and it's always been like what they want, and what's best for them.
Remember that.
Yeah.
If you guys are listening in the future.
So now that you kind of got over these first couple big humps, and you're going home, and I mean you got a wicked situation where you have a job lined up already, and you're a lot more set up than 99.9% of people going home. Very fortunate. Is now it really exciting? Is it really, or is it still?
It's gonna be more exciting once you gentlemen come and take everything out of my house. You need some Lego, you need some toys, bookshelves. I mean, right now the biggest challenge I think is just getting us there.
Right.
Because of all the corona restrictions and quarantine and things like that. Once I got confirmation that I got the job, I booked plane tickets the next day. So I have a good friend that I've never actually met in person that works for Korean Air, and she looked up what the best flight would be and recommended this specific flight. I went right online and bought the tickets.
Beautiful.
And
I would have had a party right after that. I would have started.
Yeah, I bought the tickets. But then just prior to that, I had sent all of our documents away to get our passports renewed. So
mine's coming up.
Passports had to be renewed this fall anyway, and I always renew.
6
mine
months
and the
early.
kids, we renew all together, right? So I only needed Maya's passport to be renewed, but I renewed them all anyway because you want to keep track of everything. And so the passports have been sent away. 20 working days for Canadian passports. It only took 4 days to get their Korean passports done because it's all processed here.
How long are they? 10 years?
5 years for the Korean passports.
I was going to ask,
Right.
how does that work, and what are your intentions for the kids? I mean, I think, well, I get no idea, other than I think for Tay, he has to decide which one at 18, and if he doesn't do the Army, then he has to give up his Korean one, right?
Right. So, the rules have changed over the years. When I first had Maya, at the Canadian Embassy, they told me, when she turns, whether it's like 18, international age, 20,
for her
21.
too?
Yeah, for her too. They told me that she had to decide when she was of age, which one or the other. Now, since then, the rules have changed, that the kids are eligible to keep both of their passports. You just have to follow the rules of the country of which you're living in at the time. So
she can smoke weed when she's in Canada?
well, I mean, you know,
Yeah, but when you're in Korea, you get prosecuted as a Korean. You can't
Right.
pull out your Canadian passport
Right.
and say, I'm a Canadian.
basically.
Ah,
And for
gotcha.
Tay, it would be like, you know, when he's of age, he has to do the military service.
Do you think
So-
there's even 1 millimeter chance that he would do that? Or
You know, we've talked about like, you know, that, and I mean, either he gives up, you know, gives up his Korean citizenship, and he doesn't have to do
Yeah.
the army service, but there are certain restrictions to that as well. You know, if you, there's probably a timeline attached. I'm not 100% sure, but from what I've read, you know, because we have other moms in the same situation, we try to keep up with, you know, the latest news when you have boys with dual passports. If he decided to give up his Korean passport, he would not be allowed back into Korea until he's like 40,
35,
45,
yeah.
whatever the age is.
Yeah.
You know, so if he wanted to come back and visit his grandma, he wouldn't be able to.
even as a Canadian?
Well, they wouldn't let him in because he's a dual citizenship and he's given up his Korean passport. They wouldn't let him
That's
in.
come up on the expat
So-
dad's side too.
Right, and it's changing
Yeah.
now.
But he'd be a sole. Oh, okay. Never mind. I get it.
Right,
Yeah.
because he'd be like a deserter,
Okay,
you know, basically, and they wouldn't let you back in until you're past the conscription age or
Right,
whatever.
right.
And you know, but I think it is still changing that like if we went back now and he gave his citizenship up now, earlier rather than later, that he could enter as a Canadian citizen.
Right.
I think there is a you know a grace period.
You're not leaving
But
at
if-
18, so you don't get to go to the army.
Exactly.
It's-
So, but if he, you know, decided to give it up at 18 for the sole purpose of not having to go to the army,
Right.
then they wouldn't let him back in.
Yeah.
So it's still kind of, you know, a gray area that I'm not 100% sure on. But, you know, it's beneficial. I don't know what he wants to do in the future. Maybe he wants to come back to Korea and study
Yeah.
here. You know, maybe he wants to, you know, start a business.
Talk to your
Who
sister.
knows? But it's highly unlikely.
Yeah.
It's highly unlikely, but you know, their dad is looking into that right now too about like whether you know it's going to be beneficial for him to give it up or not. But
Cool.
you know, it's his birthright. You know, you don't really want to have to.
You want to
Give one
keep your
away.
options.
Yeah, you
keep
wanna-
your options open for sure. What are the biggest worries going home
You know, not.
in terms of transitioning into a new life in a new country?
I mean, you arrive beginning of August, right? So it's a bit of a downtime. The kids can.
This eye is totally dry. This eye is like my allergies kicking in.
Oh, I didn't know if you were going to say
It's
that.
Nate's arm.
No.
But you get to arrive at kind of a good time where you'll be ready to work, but the kids will have some time to get figured out and sorted
Yeah,
out.
and my auntie just sent me the link to the school calendar, so they don't start till like after Labor Day. I can't remember which day it is,
September 5th.
yeah, they've got you know, they've got some time after we come out of quarantine to kind of, you know, adjust to right now I'm just still not sure where they're going to be placed when they get into school. Because usually we have, you know, age-appropriate placement, which would put Maya in starting grade 11 and Tay starting in grade 7, according to their peers. Because
That's the regular grade.
that would be their regular grade, because we are 6 months behind here in
Okay.
Korea. Even though we start in March, and March is earlier, obviously, than September,
But it's a year.
it's a year
yeah.
behind. So, you know, my niece, who is a month younger than Tay, you know, she'd be going into grade 7. And Maya's friends are going into grade 11. It's
Right,
just the way.
because Lena's cousin, who's like 7 months younger than her, is already
Right.
in grade 1. Or whatever.
Yes, because we start the kids go the
Earlier,
next
yeah,
year,
yeah.
right? So my niece had started school in September, and Tay didn't start school until the following March. So we're 6 months, you know, and so both kids are only finishing half a semester of their respective grades. But that puts them into the next grade going into Canada.
Sweet.
So I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna, you know, put them behind and say like you've got to do grade 6 and grade 10 again, or if they're gonna put them
Will they be
age
just-
appropriately.
Will they be in a regular class? Do they have a teacher's aide? Do they have something extra?
Well, see, this is how I
Mom.
right. Yeah, this is where I come in, because I'm not 100% sure. I'm not familiarized 100% with my duties in my new role, but it is an English as an additional language support, which means I would go to classrooms where teachers have students who need help with
How funny would that be?
language,
You
and I have to,
You're going home
support
to
the
get-
teacher, right?
You're going home to get paid to tutor your own kids.
Well, that
That's
could
awesome,
be,
yeah.
right? There's another woman who's also hired for the same position, so conflict of interest or whatever. I don't know if she might be the one, but I don't think I would be helping the kids directly. From my understanding, you're there to give the teacher some support, which might involve supporting the students as well, but it's supporting families who are new to the area as well, and just helping them with the transition into an English speaking environment.
And I think that's a pretty important job and role now with so many immigrants. And Canada's got a small population. If we don't have the immigrants, what do we have? So, and in the States as well. I remember when I was doing my master's, and they said, and that was like 3 or 4 years ago, that at that point, 51% of the student population was not English speaking by birth, and how important the ESL understanding is for regular teachers and for assistants, because so many of the students are in that situation, and lots of them are where the parents don't speak English.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And the kids are brought up in an America or a Canada that the parents don't understand, and they need to have these liaisons because it's really challenging.
The No Child Left Behind Act, they got some things in there where they can have meetings with the parents and show them how to keep their kids up to speed. But it's still not. I remember I was in a class with a music teacher, and he said he was teaching the kids like what he assumed were kind of popular songs that everyone would like. He goes, and then I had this moment of realization, like, oh, like 70% of my class is not you didn't grow up in America. Like, this is, it's kind of a weird moment of realization. Eh?
And that's the same thing too with my kids, like pop culture. I mean, Maya and Tay, I mean, they have their, friends at home, their English speaking friends, they've somewhat,
they're going to think Tay's the BTS, don't they?
Kept up, Tay has a really good older friend who, was born in Korea as well, is living, in the States with his dad now. And they just, they only speak English to each other.
Nice.
So, I mean, I think I'm less worried for him than I am for Maya, even though she's older, because he's got the daily, English practice with his older friend, you know? Whereas she's stuck at the school, cramming, she's not losing her English, but she's not really having the chance to advance it as much as he is. Just in your regular everyday conversational.
I think that'll come quick though.
Oh, it's going to be,
quick,
I grew up with.
Probably a semester thing, I think. Like once
Yeah.
you have a social
You
skills,
said when
you're forced to talk.
When you came here, you said your English wasn't fluent, or was that after high school?
After high school.
After high school.
Yeah.
And then what was you went into an all English environment?
Yeah, then I just went with other friends in university who had much better English than me. And I was kind of forced to adapt there.
Yeah. This is what I mean. I went to high school
it's
with guys who
immersion,
spoke
right?
English like this, and it's just an accent. It's not. They're completely comfortable in English. Just the accent, and you might get teased for the accent, but you'll get praised for other stuff, if that's BTS or Blackpink or whatever. But yeah, I think they'll.
I think just general day-to-day life. We're used to certain conveniences here. Maya
Everything's
says,
within 300 meters of your house.
Maya says
It'll be like slow motion on the East Coast.
Maya says she needs this book for school. I need this novel. I need this, or I can go onto the Coupang app and I can get it, and it's here tomorrow. Certain conveniences like that. The Valley culture.
Maya, it's gonna arrive in 6 months.
Right.
Anything I need, literally, you can order before noon, and it's here tomorrow morning.
Right. Some things you get, the same day. Just going
same
back
day.
into the slow motion of, quiet small town life. I mean, I think
I'm bored.
town and county for me now, I maybe 7,000 town and county.
Jesus. That's like their high school.
It's just really small. She's the kids are city kids, more so Maya than Tay, because he's not, she likes to, on the weekend, we'll take her, we have a date. We go to a coffee shop. She finds a nice coffee shop. We go and have a coffee. That's her winding down from her week of studying, So she gets dressed up. We go have a little coffee date. We might go to the store and she buys new pens and pencils and notepads and things like that. Things for school.
I only used one pen for 4 years of high school.
No, she goes through so many pens, and she has a favorite, and she gets the refills. She gets the refills for the pen. These ones write the best.
That's a culture here. I used to go get school starting a blue binder and like a 12-pack of big pens.
That's the only individuality they have, though. To have not so much cute these days. It's like function, though. She wants the cute study planners and the notepads, and I just say yes to it. Like, if you want these things to study, go ahead. Buy new school supplies. It's not like she's asking me for things that are not useful. These are useful for her. So
it's more like identity for high school students. Like, oh, this is my brand of water pouch.
And another thing too. she's worn uniforms the whole time here, so no individuality. She wasn't able to, no jewelry, no jewelry. Her hair, even her natural brown hair, we had to have
certification.
We had to tell we had to tell the school.
Who do we talk about that with?
It was just recently we talked to somebody about
you had to
my hair is not dyed brown.
My hair is not dyed brown. My hair is a natural brown. It needed to be certified. Yes,
So
right.
They know it's not dyed.
They assumed maybe because she was a mixed child, but at one point during vacation she had some highlights put in, and then we had to cover them back up before she went to school.
Yeah.
And
back in line.
Yeah, and there was a little bit that didn't get covered up. But the part that didn't get covered up was, her natural highlights anyway. Yeah. And, the teacher had told her, you've got to cut off another 2 inches of your hair.
I'll stab you in the neck with those same scissors. Yeah.
Where we can still see that, And, so just, socks. For Maya, it was always like sneakers and socks. Yeah. So those are the only 2 things that she could really, accessorize with.
Here I come, grade 11, right. High heels and...
I don't get it.
She's already got a part-time job.
Uniformity is
part-time job. Wow.
Uniformity.
My auntie has a clothing store. My auntie has a consignment clothing store, and she's already offered Maya a part-time job. So she's gonna work every Saturday at the store.
You said I think once she gets a taste of the money, she'll be getting 2 more jobs too. She's pretty.
Another friend
ambitious.
has already asked her to tutor her daughter in Korean. The mom's Korean, the dad's Canadian.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh.
So that's you get so many opportunities. But when you said big city kids, hey, after 1 or 2 semesters there, if they say, Mom, this is too slow, you know what? You got the options, man. And you only got 2 years of high school left. You can go to university anywhere you want. So those options are also there for them if they want to get back into the big city style. But.
Right. She's just, she enjoys going to the different little coffee shops. She loves Starbucks, her, fancy drinks.
Latte juice.
She's just gonna have to adjust to, small town.
I can't wait to hear how it goes and to hear how perspectives
we have
changed.
A lot of, I've been away for a long time, but there's, family, friends, very supportive people going back to. So in the beginning, I was just kind of thinking like, oh, we're going to, just panicking. We're going to arrive in Canada, we're going to do our quarantine, go back to, my mom's house, and it's going to be like totally empty. I pictured us all sleeping together on the floor, just...
no under.
I had, just like, how am I going to furnish this house? Like, that's totally like empty. I've never had to like really do that before. People were reaching out and saying like, oh, we'll look for different pieces and we'll see if we can, get you this and get you that. Like, so I'm very blessed to have these people.
Based on your Facebook announcement, you're in good hands.
Yeah, but it's
I thought if I went home, I was like, Stacey's got the whole East Coast offering to help her out.
Right,
She's been there in 25 years. Like, I might have like 3 or 4 on the list there, Good. See you soon. Good. Holy man. I was reading the comments on yours. A fantastic group of people you're going back to.
And it's like, people that you haven't seen or even like talked to face to face. Since like elementary school, really, because I've been gone so long.
Yeah, you must have been popular.
But you have friends. It's a small town mentality, and like you've got Facebook. We've watched each other's kids grow up over the years,
Yeah.
But yeah, like what's your aesthetic? Like what do you know? Like let me know what your what kind of interior design you're planning. Look, I have no idea. You know, just the kids are Korean. They've slept on the floor before, mind you. You know, heated ondol floors here. You know, but they're looking forward to. Maya's looking forward to a Canadian style bed, like a hotel, like a high off the. What do you call it? I mean, here our beds are so close to the
you need
ground.
oxygen masks. They're so high.
You know,
now.
yeah, they're just. She wants a big double bed. You know, that's the one thing that she's asked. You know, like a big double bed. She's excited to go to yard sales and get vintage things and go shopping. You know, at the used clothing stores because she has her own vintage. You know, she wants vintage. She wants to buy a record player and have records and.
Sounds like freedom.
Sounds like you're leaving the jail.
Yeah, she's got plans.
Just discovering an alternate way of life and not getting stuck in the bubble. I think it's so good for the kids to really expand
Kay
their
just
mind.
wants
That's
to
what
take
I
his
think.
computer.
That's what I think. Having the
He
hybrid
wants to take his
kids,
computer.
I think that's what their advantage is all the time. Is that you have options, more options than the average person.
And Maya is very mindful of that. Like these days, especially with like her friends studying for exams.
Come to Canada.
Yeah, her friends studying for exams. She felt really bad that she wasn't studying as much as they were.
Yeah.
You know,
Survivor's
and she's
guilt.
like, "Mom, I'm just like so many things, so many things going through her head right now. She's just overwhelmed." And she's like, I just need to like stop studying a little bit early tonight and just take a nap. And she felt guilty for doing it because her friends were still studying. You know?
I would love her to write a book. I would just love to.
Yeah.
I don't know if she has notes of whatever going through, but you might. Have you ever considered something like that? Not writing a book, but. Maya, write all your ideas down. You never know 5 years later when you might.
Hold on,
I think now it's called vlogging.
Yeah. I just mean now when it's fresh. Like I look back at some of my records from when I traveled all over the world, and I think, if I did it again, I'd be so much more diligent. I don't mean writing every day, but being more diligent in accuracy, maybe because, wow, it'd be fun to reflect more.
But she's not the only kid in that situation. She could potentially speak to like a whole generation of kids. You know,
but that's what I mean. But not to force on someone. But would you ever, or have you ever, or guys, have you ever talked about like having notes or taking notes about how you're feeling? Someone said the best thing you could do, or the best thing about Corona, is that people are online every day, and when they look back in 20 years, it's all on Facebook. All their feelings, all their emotions, all their things, they're logged. Where in the past. People didn't have those logs to go back to.
Oh, I've been burying all my emotions.
Yeah.
Damn it.
No, I think she's into she probably wants to start a YouTube channel. She's talked about that 100%. For a while. But I think just the focus, like time restraints here. She's never really been able to do it, and we're fortunate that we have we have friends of the family that are very famous here in Korea. And the mom has more than 1 million followers on Instagram. Yeah. She started the YouTube. I don't know how many people are on her YouTube now, but she's got
not as many as ours.
She's offered Maya to promote that.
Sign her up, man.
Not really promotion, but just her following Maya on Instagram is enough, Right. People have contacted Maya like, how do you know that family? And like, da-da-da. And people following Maya because the mom and dad both follow Maya on Insta, So very famous television personality, soccer player, he popped in on Maya's Instagram live and was like, where are you? Like, what are you doing? Because to Maya, like, that's uncle,
that's huge.
That's uncle, right? And to her friends who were also watching, like, why is he like watching you, da-da-da, right? Yeah. And so she's got that, those people in her life that if she wanted to start, was serious with this YouTube, they both have their own successful YouTube channels that, they could give her some pointers and tips. So,
and I think just now having been through and experienced so much in terms of Korean life and going home, what a time to reflect and kind of document how your perspectives change and how you feel about it. Going home, best memories of Korea, and maybe some, Bri asks this a lot, what are some things that you've experienced or gained from living in Korea that you would take back home with you?
I mean, definitely work ethic. You know, not that.
How come the whole East Coast is lazy?
Well, no.
What are you guys doing?
No, I'm not knocking, you know, my roots, but I mean, we, as a single mom here, like I mentioned earlier, you know, you don't work, you don't get paid.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have the social systems in
Right.
place here
Okay.
to get support from that. You know, if I was in the same situation at home in Canada, there would be government support.
Right.
You know, there would be, you know, financial support available for somebody in my position.
And lots of other assistance, lots of other resources that you can count on.
exactly, right. And even with this new job position that I've accepted, you know, when I was growing up, we didn't have anything like that. I mean, like my friends who were immigrants to Canada, you know, they had to, you know, one friend, she arrived when she was in middle school. And I remember her telling me that she spent almost a year, like with a private tutor, you know, just to get her able to speak English enough that she could go to, you know, go to school. You know, support for our, you know, Indigenous children, support for the African Nova Scotian children. You know, there's just different support systems in place that we didn't have before. So I'm really surprised by that. It's definitely a good thing. But yeah, I mean, it's just these days, going back, scheduling, we're so used to having a very busy, hectic lifestyle here that, you know, time management, I'm going to have to get used to managing my time a little bit differently now.
Well, I think, and you might, it sounds strange, but you might have to learn how to relax. And no,
I agree 100%.
I'm not saying
It's just funny. Like I think we're masters of relaxing at home.
But hold on a sec. It could be just me, but if I'm getting better these days, but at some point it was like, if I'm not maximizing every hour of every day, if I'm not leveraging this time to get ahead in whatever way I choose, that it's kind of wasted time just sitting around. I don't know how many times I used to at home just lay down, like sleep the whole afternoon away, and it was totally fine. Everything was cool.
Yeah.
Not a care in the world.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been able to have a nap here. You know, this.
But here, and that's what I'm saying. Going home, if you're doing the regular schedule, like, for me, even still personally, like during Corona, I had like 6 weeks of Saturdays off, and I was like, oh, this is what life is like. It was an interesting,
and then going back
experience.
into, you know, I mean, I did go to teachers college, so, you know, I had always planned on, you know, just being a teacher and having that, you know, that kind of lifestyle, that schedule, the you know, holidays and summer vacation off. And then, you know, I came to Korea. I'm going to Korea for a year.
What the hell are you going to do, man?
I'm going to Korea for a year, and it turned into 24. And so I'm used to a whole different kind of schedule here. Just different things like meal planning, you know, because right now, you know, we have grandma. Grandma takes care of my house and my kids. You know, I go to work. I pay the bills. Yeah. You know, and you know, I come home after school. I come home. She's got dinner on the table for me, and you know, I don't really have to do too much meal planning. You know, besides weekends. Meal planning, housework. I mean, I do clean my own house, but for the most part, it's grandma. And you know, yeah, and I mean, that's going to be something that, like, you know, I have to plan now. You know, we're going to be going to school in Canada. How do I get the kids to school? I'm assuming that there's a bus, you know, like overthinking too many things. You know, they go to school, I go to work. When does my work end? You know, when do the kids finish school? You know, I mean, they're going to be old enough that they can take care of themselves after school anyway. But, you know, for me to finish work and come home and have time, like, with them, to be able to, like, cook dinner together, do homework together, this is just mind-boggling to me. Wow. So I haven't really wrapped my head around being able to do that yet.
You're gonna have some big shoes to fill. I've seen grandma's meals lately.
These days, I'm, you know, not taking it for granted. You know, I'm snapshotting like every dinner.
That'll be a big adjustment.
Yeah. And then what else? Try not to get too emotional about all of this. But yeah, grandma's gonna come and visit next year. my brother and his wife, are going to fly to Canada next summer and bring grandma with them.
Oh, beauty.
And, as a Korean, she'll get 6 months. So I keep telling her, brush up on your English, grandma, because, depending on how long she'll stay, because my brother and sister-in-law won't be able to stay like the whole time. So, we want to maximize grandma's, time with us. So more than
Can I have a
likely,
big house for you to clean? I'll keep you busy.
Or
No,
cooking
no, no.
expertise. Yeah.
more than likely they'll bring her like at the beginning of the summer sometime. And, she'll stay for the duration of the summer. And, we'd have to get her back to Korea somehow, but I'm sure there's some kind of, service that we could sign grandma up for 100%. That they would take her, gate to gate.
Yep.
But yeah, so she's excited. She knows that, this is what the kids need for their, their education and their, mental health more than anything. So,
and people always ask, or when we first come here, how can you move to a different country? It's so hard. We got a lot of technology to facilitate conversation and connectedness
these days,
across
borders. Look, when I first came to Ulsan, we had there was one internet cafe.
Marky speaks highly of it. Friday night email checks.
one PC bang that we would go to, and you could have like a coffee or have something to drink, and you check your email, before you go to, go out for drinks with your friends.
24 years later, I checked it 17 times at breakfast.
And then, and after that, maybe within 6 months, there was another one that opened up downtown in the old downtown. So then you had options. You could go to Mugodong next to the university.
The really smoky one or the little smoky one?
And then you could go to the other one, and then boom, within the next year, everywhere around the
Well, when I was working in Ghana, and I was in a village of maybe a couple thousand people, there was one call center. If my mom or dad tried to call, which was never easy to get through anywhere, but if they called, they would stay on the line and they would say, "Brian, go and tell Madingo there's a call for him." And you would have to run a kilometer down the road to my place and say, "Is Madingo here? Someone is calling for him." And then I would have to sprint down to the phone shop and hope that the line didn't disconnect before I got there.
Oh, jeez.
And then I'm like, this is mom and dad from Canada. And but after 10 minutes, half the town is lined up to make their phone call. Mm-hmm. Their phone calls are like 30 seconds. And there's guys banging on the thing. It's like, "Oh, it's Madingo and he's talking. Just wait a few minutes." And I'd feel the pressure after like 10, 15 minutes. Half the town's getting lined up to make their call. And I'm like, "Mom, you can't understand what's going on here, but there's 40 people ready to kill me outside. I gotta cut you short. Sorry." But yeah, the pads and the technology now is amazing for staying in touch.
I've never heard your Africa stories before.
Yeah,
lots
of them.
Have to fill me in.
What will you miss the most about Korea?
Oh, geez.
Coupon.
Yeah, probably just the ease of every day.
You get me all choked up over here, boys.
Yeah, I left witches.
Coupon did it. It wasn't talking for an hour before
I
your
left
daughter.
the witches till the end.
I knew this was going to happen. I was like, take it easy on me. Don't get me all, Yeah, just, friendships, right?
No, dude. You built a life over there.
You're going to have to do some heavy editing at the end. Heavy editing here at the end.
You have your group of sisters there, and it must have come up before that some of you guys would be moving on. I know a few of them at least have talked about it. Are you the first one to commit and make the jump, or?
Yeah, we've had other friends, who have left, but out of my close circle of friends, I think I'm probably the first one to jump ship.
Yeah. Do you think others will in the near future?
At least one of them has been planning for years.
Yeah,
she hasn't. It's been in the works for a while, and she's now saying that. No, I'm okay. She's been saying that she's gonna head out like next year. But yeah, I had another friend stop over yesterday, and she started crying, and I started crying.
Oh, of course.
And there was just different plans. We were each going to Okay, I gotta calm down.
No.
You
Well,
know,
whatever,
we
can
had
edit out all
plans
this.
to visit each other's countries and.
But
And,
in one aspect, don't you think this might be the start of all that? That now people might be going back, and you might be the first domino to fall of a bunch and start the.
I mean,
the
like
parade home?
location-wise, though. I mean, like, you know, east coast of Canada is not something that you're not going to be visiting if you're just planning on.
Right.
You know, it's not a place that you can easily stop
Depends.
into
Depends on where.
unless you're like, you know, and I mean, we're just gonna hope that plane ticket prices aren't skyrocketing and that it's gonna be affordable for people. But I mean, like, look, too. I mean, there's also other friends who, you know, they might not have the option of being able to go home, and
Right.
You're going to be the reason for a lot of envy. I bet a lot of people are looking at your situation going like, oh, Joqueta, I wish we could move on.
You know Andy
Andy.
Fawcett.
Oh, I know the name. Yes,
Oh,
online, right?
Yeah, but you know him from here. But he's been gone 8. Did he say 8 years?
Yeah.
He
6
said,
or 8.
"Boys, it's been 8 years." I'm like, huh? Holy shit, man! I feel like he was here a couple years ago.
Well,
but
I mean, just with the whole Corona, we've lost 2 years
Yeah.
already. So when you keep saying like, "Oh, just the last time we met," well, oh yeah,
that was
that's
all
like,
before
you know,
Corona. Yeah. But he said, "I got my tickets, guys. I'm coming back at Christmas." And I went, "Holy shit! That's been 9 years, 8 or 9 years." And I think, wow, you know, and that was a friendship that I worked with him the first day I got here. That was the first job was with him, and you know, he went up north to Tuktoyaktuk or whatever, and he worked for a few years up there, but I just can't believe because of technology how long it's been, and that you do always stay in contact, and if it's us in Canada or him coming here or whatever, that's always out there, and that's.
I
good.
mean, definitely. I mean, we've got, you know, all the social media, and I mean, like, look, it's been a while since I've seen a lot of these ladies, you know, face to face anyway,
Right.
and we've managed to keep, you know, our friendships going
Sure.
online. You know, it's just going to be an extension of that.
Absolutely.
You know, when we go back, but
And that'll make the reunion somewhere in a few years. All that. All
you
that
know,
more special,
yeah,
you know?
and then like, look, coming into a position where I will have the summers off. You know, travel is always going to be an option. You know, starting fresh after
that is
living.
a benefit of a teacher. Eh?
Yeah, after living here as long as we have, I mean, you know, we're going to be even just getting us home. The plane tickets weren't that expensive. I mean, they were cheaper than I thought they were going to be, but still, you know, you're
still over $1 million.
you're still over 3 million
No, but over
per,
$1 million
per ticket.
per
Yeah,
ticket.
yeah, per ticket, right. You know, but you're always looking at prices like that going back to the East Coast anyway.
I was gonna say
Flying
East
into-
Coast. That's really
yeah.
cheap,
That's
man.
pretty cheap.
Yeah, flying into Vancouver, Toronto, you know, flying into New York even, you've got, you know, cheaper prices. But look, I totally was, you know, more than prepared to pay for that. It's just, you know, getting into quarantine and trying not to think about how expensive the quarantine hotel is going to be. No,
is it
it's
guaranteed?
reality that I'm going to have to stay in the quarantine hotel. I don't.
Make some
there's-
absurd demands.
There's no time to
Korean
get the
food all
2 vaccines. I've only had the 1 vaccine so far, and the next one is scheduled like 2 weeks after I'm arriving in Canada. So, yeah, quarantine hotel unless you know, unless in the next month they bypass the quarantine hotel and just let you go.
Which is
directly
also
to-
a decent possibility. I mean, they didn't implement that until
no,
like
it is a possibility. I
months
mean,
ago,
because they
right?
still, you know, if you travelers arriving by land, you know, if you're
Right.
just driving over the
Yeah.
border, they're not required to do the hotel.
Right.
Only incoming travelers. So there's this big, you know,
Flying to Buffalo, drive over the.
yeah.
you know. So you know, I've had at least 2 friends contact me saying, if you haven't gotten your plane tickets yet, why don't you fly to like somewhere in Vancouver and you know, rent a car and go across the border, or any of the border cities, flying into one of the American border cities, crossing
Seattle,
over. Crossing over, because it's a big thing now. I mean, I read an article about like
So ridiculous.
private
eh?
drivers in New York, you know, flying people
people
flying
out.
into New York and driving across.
Sure.
You know, because it's at least $1,000, if not more, $1,000, $2,000 for the quarantine hotels.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I mean, like, look, this is money that I'm thinking of it as you know, money well spent, because you know it's the end.
Starting a new life.
Right? Yeah. The
Transition money.
transition money. So
What?
we're going to be building back, building up savings after that. But just security of like being home with a secure job and the kids being happy
Support
and healthy.
What are you most looking forward to going home?
Most looking forward to? I mean, just seeing family that I didn't think that I was going to be able to see again for a very long, time, right? After my mom passed away, I've got, a younger brother. I've got my, aunts and uncles, cousins, and what have you. But I mean, it was always, my mom that brought us home.
Of course.
But when you don't have those
Connections.
and when you're, in a position where, we don't have a lot of time off here, maybe we'd be lucky if we get a week off in the summer. So with a week off, 3 plane tickets going to Canada, it's not, it's not worth
it.
Yeah.
It's not worth spending that much money to be able to just go home for a week. So anytime we would go to Canada, it would be at least for a month because, the plane tickets are just so expensive and you need, the downtime, to get over your, jet lag and, just mentally prepare to come back. So I realistically did not think that I was going to be going to Canada anytime soon. I mean, I thought maybe retirement, or once my kids finish school, would probably be the next time I would see these, friends and family again.
Wow.
So that's a really big, just kind of hitting me like, oh, I'm going, right?
That's it. Is there anything left in Korea? Like any Korea bucket list things you got to do? Like,
I mean, there are just so many because I haven't been anywhere.
No
you know,
time.
when you live here, you don't think of going to these places or doing these things
because they're always an option.
Yeah,
right?
because they're always an option. I've never been to see Bangude, the petroglyphs.
Oh, you got to see that.
I've never seen the petroglyphs.
Me neither.
You neither? I mean, and they're just
awesome,
they're just out that way. They're not far. But I mean, the kids have gone with school trips. I've only been to Jeju once. Just different things that you see people doing these day trips and traveling around. I've always just been so busy. The weekends were always, take Maya to her after school classes, mom taxi, pick her up, drop her off.
Yeah.
You don't have the time to do all these things. And when you're a local, you don't think to do these things as well. Like the caves next to my house.
Only when people come to visit.
Haven't seen the caves, and they've been open for a while. I mean, I've been told there's not much to see in the caves, but I used to drive by before it was,
It's a beautiful road, isn't it? Driving
yeah,
down there and all the trees kind of hover over,
I mean,
over the street. What's
drive
that?
to work,
Birds.
Which one?
Birds just screaming all the time.
Yeah. I mean, the drive to work and home, I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful scenery. Mountain on one side, the river on the other side. We're in an excellent location. I mean, just things like that. I mean, we're going to have different kind of greenery at home.
Sure.
Came home yesterday. I was quite shocked, actually. Grandma's very efficient with getting things, done. She decided that we didn't need the pepper plants and the tomato plants that are growing and giving us, a couple tomatoes here and there, little baby tomatoes. She dug them all up and threw them out.
Oh, nice.
And I mean, that was my greenery coming coming home, to see my little urban garden. We have a baby bathtub that was the kids' bathtub when they were little, repurposed, and it was just growing mint and lemon balm, and it was, at least 2 feet high. Gone yesterday. Gone. The mint was gone. Melanie had her heart set on mojitos. She wanted mint. I still have another mint plant, but I was just kind of shocked. I mean, and this is like Grandma being efficient. She's getting, getting.
You said
things.
you gotta go.
Yeah, we gotta.
So you gotta do this shit.
I mean, she's telling me, get everything out as much as possible, and then she'll have like the cleaners come in and then just trash everything else.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, there are a lot of things that I ideally would not like to go into the trash. I mean, they can go to the beautiful store. They can go to people that need them, and I've just, every weekend since I found out that, we'll be going home, I've just had like people come in and,
Collect.
take stuff, right? Like, just please come and, take things and, repurpose, send things to a new home. So I just, mentally, I need to get myself in the space where, you know, I'm ready to just leave things behind. Because right now, you know, down to like the little pencil, like, you know, I'm putting things like putting all the pencils in a bag. You know, my friend can use it at her academy, and, you know, just I have to let go of things that can be. Yesterday was spent wrapping up like Mama's Binu. I had a bunch of people. I had posted that I would be sometimes this weekend posting a list of stock, and that if anybody wanted anything, that it would be available. But I had private messages of people saying, if you have this, 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 and this, I'd like it, please. Yeah. So yesterday was spent, you know, I did manage to load one friend up with a carload of books and another kind of stacking rack. So that was you know, a successful day. And I packed up about 5 or 6 orders, and I'm still in the process of making like the one. A lady had a custom, she'd ordered some custom soap molds from somewhere over in Europe, and she wanted me to make 30 soaps for her son's birthday party. So those molds have arrived, so I owe her 30 soaps. So I'm doing those, and I've got 4 molds, so I can only make 4 at a time, and I have to make 30. So I think I've got more than half done already, but you know, it's time consuming. So I'm making those, I'm pouring those while they're setting up. I'm cleaning up other things, and so it's just chaos because I start with one thing, like, oh, I'm gonna start this, and then I go there and I start that. And then, like, a friend came last week, and she asked if I had, like, costumes for, like, dress up, you know, for the kindergartners. And so I, like, opened up the bag of, like, Halloween costumes and stuff upstairs. Yeah. And, you know, so just things everywhere. Yeah. And I started going through, like, paperwork.
Organized chaos.
I started going through paperwork. I found all of my, like, daily planners. And so yesterday I went through, and I took snapshots of different, like, daily events that I had written in the planner. So I've got, like... here, the planner. Yeah. So this one said the baby's due. So Maya was due on the 20th, and you can see sentimental ones. Yeah, you know. And then like this day, we went. It was the Parents' Day. We went to the temple. Just different things that I have to write in the kids' baby books. You can't
take everything with you, right?
I can't take all these with me, right? Tough. But I wrote down in the books like when she lost her first tooth, or different things like that. So look. On September 20th, Maya ate sweet potato for the first time, you know. Oh. So, but I can't take all those books with me. They're small. Yeah. They're only like the little daily planners. You gotta
pick and choose, man.
But, you know, there's so many of them. And right now I'm like looking at everything and thinking, how much is it going to weigh? And how much is it going to cost me to ship it back?
And do I really need it?
Yeah, do I really need it? And so I was putting together like files with some of the kids' like schoolwork so that they can each have in a file the first time Maya wrote her name or things like that. Just little keepsakes, but...
Ideally, you'd have a little more time to do it.
Exactly, and I don't, and this is just time. So I'm thinking like, okay, I'm trying to get through my bedroom and get things done. I've purged like almost all of the clothes. Some other things still need to go, but, you know, we can take 2 pieces of luggage each, plus a backpack, and another maybe carry-on. So we've got to figure out what we're going to take in those bags. Yeah. Now for Tay, he wants to take his computer. So I need to find somebody who knows about computers, who can like come in and take out whatever needs to be taken out, like take out the hard drive or take out the... He's got a gaming computer that lights up with LED, that has a remote control, that has clear sides or glass on the sides. Yeah. And he just got it for Children's Day from his dad. And I bought him a new monitor. Now look, this is May. Children's Day was May. We had no idea we were going to Canada. You know,
tape it to himself. Right?
We had no idea, and he's got this computer now.
Declare? No.
And that's the only thing he wants to take. Yeah. You know, so I've got to figure out how do I get this in his suitcase, and how do I take it home. Yeah. I mean, the monitor, I can get him another monitor in Canada, but there's no way that he can have this, you know, the same computer. Yeah. So for him, I got the size 5 boxes from the post office, and I put one in his room, and I said, just put whatever you want to keep in the box, and then we're going to look at the box later and see how much can fit into your suitcase and how much, you know, can be shipped later on. Yeah. So right now, there's no surface shipping or air mail available to Canada at the moment because of Corona.
My birthday cards to Mom are going to cost $26.
Yes, exactly. Only EMS. EMS. There are online options that you can sign up for that will send birthday cards for you. So a lot of people are looking into that. I just remember around Christmas time, being at the post office to send some Mamas Binu packages, and the lady next to me had a stack of like Christmas cards that she wanted to send to family overseas, and they were telling her like it's you can't, and she didn't understand what they were saying, and he had to like pick up one of her cards and say, this card is going to cost you 28,000 won to send home. And she was like, but I have like 10. And he's like, yes, exactly. You cannot.
Send them to one address.
We can send it for you, but you have to pay $28 for each. And she just didn't wrap her head, couldn't wrap her head around it. So, so what we're going to look at is I've got a box in the kitchen now with some kitchen things that like I had brought back from Canada over the years. My grandmother's pie plates, my bread bowl that my good friend Dave made,
that would be number one.
The bread pot, right? My teapot.
Sorry,
that he
Tony.
made,
I'm taking the bread bowl.
just different things that I had, brought from Canada, and things that my Korean tea set, that are in the box. Now, right now, they're just in the box. They haven't been like wrapped or packed or anything. They're just to visualize.
Not an easy process.
Yeah, and so there's a box in Maya's room. And right now, I mean, look, her albums, her graduation album from elementary school, her graduation album from middle school, her graduation album from kindergarten. Those are heavy books, And so we're thinking that instead of sending them, next year when grandma and my brother come, bring them instead in their luggage, because those are just things that are heavy, because we're going to have to pay to ship these home.
Well, that's
we're going to try to keep them
coming to Korea.
light.
Some mules.
Coming to Korea for your new life with 2 bags. You got to pick and choose what you want to bring.
Right.
It really simplifies, and that's what living in a small apartment here for me is. It keeps me from hoarding and keeping extra shit. I don't need it. For me though, over the years, it's been bringing back a quilt that my grandmother made, and bringing back like my aunt made me an Afghan. Like now I got to bring them all back.
I got to bring them all back. So they're not going to be heavy, but I mean it's boxes of stuff. So I'm planning on sending them to my brother in Incheon. Yeah. He can keep them there until the surface shipping opens up, and then he can ship them for me, which is the only option I have right now. Yeah. A friend contacted, Melanie actually, had contacted one of the shipping companies, the big shipping companies, and they had quoted her like $400 for like 50 kilograms or something. So it's not like it used to be where you could get like a quarter of a container or a half a container, and pay per space. Yeah. They're charging weight now too. So.
Not worth it.
Well, sounds like your time is a premium. Thank you very much for stopping in today and sharing these stories with us.
Well, I think I held it together better than I thought I was going to hold it together, but you're still going to have to do some heavy editing on it. I'm going to miss everybody. I can't talk right now.
You'll be all right. That's awesome, man. But anyways, thank you so much for coming by. Let's go eat some breakfast and clean out your house.
Clean out the house as much as possible.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Episode 50 in the books. Please don't forget to check out our sponsor, Dr. English. It is your one-stop shop for all of your English conversational needs. Enjoy learning from the comfort of your own home. Call 010-4591-1496 for a free sample class. Take your English to the next level by visiting their website now at www.dr-english.com.